So just went through a run with Ornn against a 5-star adventure, which was successful. We used this build here. Definitely had some luck there. I think Ornn is one of the most difficult champions in high-star adventures. So let's do a breakdown and look at what other options you have for relics for him. First of all, looking at his constellation, he primarily focuses around equipment and forging. So the first time you play an ally or equipment that costs 4+ mana, you manifest another equipment in your hand and reduce its cost by 2. Then for his 3-star, at round start, you create a 0-cost fleeting time and dedication in hand, and the first time you forge each round, you forge again. I think it would be great if they had something more focused around changing forge, because you're going to be forging a lot. Like his 2-star or something would be great if they changed it to something like, forge gives you a keyword, or forge gives you additional stats rather than just +1/+1. But yeah, he's a pretty slow character. You have to continually forge and keep your units alive in order to actually get through into the late game and be able to win. So the things that you want to look for with Ornn are ways to cheat him out or get more mana gems, things like that, in order to be able to play your more expensive cards and ramp quicker, where you're able... Ornn is a big part of the deck. Him and his leveled up version. Once you get him on the board, it's pretty easy to level him up, and then every time you attack in with Ornn, you get this Spirit of the Ram, which is quite nice. It's basically a copy of him with his stats, and it just has, it's ephemeral and has Overwhelm, so it can be quite strong there. I suggest getting some way to get him out earlier, so Frozen Tomb is an option. The only problem with Frozen Tomb is you can't trigger his play effect, so this makes it so when you play him, you copy an equipment from your strongest ally, and then you equip it on him. And if you skip the targeting a strongest ally, it will copy one from your hand. So yeah, with an exact copy of equipment or the strongest equipment from your hand. So when you're playing him, you just choose skip if you don't want to copy one of the ones from your board, and then it'll just copy the one from your hand and equip that, as long as you have one in your hand. So, and then when you attack, it forges him twice, so he gets +2/+2. And then, yeah, depending if you haven't used your 3-star forge yet, the first forge each round gives you an extra forge. So extra +1/+1, you can potentially forge 3 times if you just attack with him. So, secret technique. This only benefits the first forge that you generate, that 0-cost time and dedication. It does not benefit duplicate forges. We were testing this out with the last run. So you can get, with your first forge with the time and dedication, you can get +3/+3 instead of +2/+2. It's not really a big benefit, so you can probably substitute this out. This is a way to get some additional stats from this, but I think the only reason you would potentially use this is if you're also using something like Hymn of Valor. Then it might be worth it, because this would, double the doubled stats, and that would be reasonable for him. So yeah, I would pretty much only use this if you're using something like Hymn of Valor. I was thinking you would get double effect off the forge, but it's only the first forge that you get the double effect of. Other options, instead of Frozen Tomb, you can use the Disciple of Shadows. This is probably a better choice for him, just because you're more likely to trigger the equip effect. This does risk some of your board, so can make it more difficult in some instances to play him if you're on a defending turn or something like that, or you risk having only him on the board afterwards. So can be some problems. There are no other real benefits to him hitting your board, so this is just to make him cheaper to play. Other options, you can use things like Luminous Orb, and then Starforged Gauntlets. I can spell Starforged. There we go, Starforged Gauntlets. This will get you 8 defense, or 8 health, and it'll trigger Starforged, so you'll start with 3 mana instead of starting with 2. So that can be very helpful for him. He definitely needs to scale up his mana quite quickly. I do recommend some form of Overwhelm, at least on him, so Chosen by the Stars can also get you a lot of extra stats every time you use that 0 cost time and dedication on him. It's a created card and you have Faded, so you get +2/+1 from that, and then the forges themselves, you'll get another, +2/+2 or +1/+1 from each forge, depending on, the first time you forge, you get the extra on there. So if you don't have that, then you can use something like Cruel Experiments, though probably the Beast Within is better. So this will also give you some Overwhelm. You don't have a ton of subtype creatures in your deck, but you do have some. The Combat Cook is a Weapon Master, so he counts as a subtype. But I think the rest here, no other subtypes. So you only have one other subtype in your deck. But the Beast Within is a good source of Overwhelm. Otherwise, you can use the Troll King's Crown. That is also effective for that. There are other things you can do. You can look for, you can use things like full build. Like I said, focusing on Overwhelm just on him is fine. He's typically going to be your biggest unit that you are dropping. One thing that can be quite good on him, well, I guess this is a play effect. Normally, you'll have a weapon in your hand, but if you want to guarantee that you're able to get a weapon, you can use Found Fortune. Your highest cost card below him by default is this Bone Club, and so this will be 0 cost, then you can equip it to him. So that does give you a guaranteed, if you don't draw a weapon or you don't find a weapon by the time you're playing him, that will get you a way to get a weapon out there. Sorry, one moment. Oh, come here, girl. My cat jumped on my computer, and they have shut down my computer before by jumping up there. There's the power button on top, so every once in a while that happens, and I don't want her to do that while going through this. So anyway, let's continue. Champion's Purse, also a way to get Overwhelm. There's a couple different ways you can just look through and choose one of those. Other things that will also work decently with him, he does have a lot of stuff with forging. You can use Living Weapon. This will be another way, just when you drop him, attack with him, or at the round start, you get Forge, so more benefit to him. I wouldn't say this is particularly strong, but it's good enough. Nothing wrong with that. Perfect Hex Core is decent in terms of getting more keywords. You're forging your units, but you don't really have a way to sustain yourself. This can be a way to get you some sustain if you manage to hit lifesteal, but that's just sort of a gamble. The spells in his deck, so here he has this Catalyst of Eons, I think. Actually, surprisingly, that is the only spell in his deck. He has almost no spells. So if you want to, you can try to scale him faster by using Searing Brilliance. That'll get you more copies of the one spell in his deck. It'll make it 2 cost. So basically, for 2 mana, you are both getting a mana gem and you're drawing a card, which isn't too bad, especially if you're using something like, Luminous Orb and Starforged Gauntlets. You could potentially scale your mana up quite quickly with that. But I haven't tried out using... I use Searing Brilliance on so many characters, but I actually haven't tried it on him. Yeah, he only has one spell, so you're guaranteed to hit that one spell. If you want to build around it, then that's something you can certainly try out. I don't see any other particular things on the epic side in terms of build around. You can do some things on his side in terms of his champion spell. This will deal a bunch of damage to all units, so you can certainly make it so you're forging more and you're able to deal damage to their units if you're just focusing on him using, you know, like Archangel's Staff, Chemtech Duplicator, and Grand Generals. So this would be a way to make sure that you essentially have a copy of him. You get a bunch of extra forges each turn. This will also, Chemtech Duplicator will work with, you know, the time and dedication that you get in your hand from the 3-star. So it'll double those forges every time you're doing it once Ornn is on the board. I think that's fine, but I wouldn't say it's, you know, going to be amazing. Typically, where Ornn struggles is the beginning of the game, stabilizing the board, stuff like that. Things that help you win more once Ornn is already on the board, probably not going to be the best. It's more about, okay, how do I survive long enough to get him to 6 mana, or, you know, however much mana I need to drop him, get him on the board, and then once you're stabilized there, you're probably going to be in an okay position. We already talked about the Hymn of Valor. You can use that in combination with Secret Technique. He does drop, you know, as a 5/5, and potentially he'll have good equipment. If you equip him, you can put multiple Stalker's Blades on him, help remove more of the board. That can be decent. The other things, of course, I should have mentioned earlier, because he is a expensive unit, of course, Portal Pals, always a great option for expensive units. This will get you other expensive units in your hand that you can toss out for very cheap, give you a lot more tempo there, which can be quite good. Let's go through the last bit of blue relics and whatnot here. He doesn't have too much with other strikes. Stalker's Blade, good. Berserker's Buckle, going to be good. You want to be doing combat with him and having him survive, especially if you have some way of getting him regeneration, like Chosen by the Stars or something like that. Berserker's Buckle is a great combination with Chosen by the Stars. Keep scaling him, keep attacking in, and winning that way. Already talked about Troll King's Crown. That is also good. You want to protect him, so if you are going into some adventures that have a lot of removal, Banshee's Veil, of course, for Spell Shield can be very critical. And then, yeah, Storm Razor, also good to be able to attack in with him, make sure he is safe. He typically gets enough stats from the forging and whatnot that you don't have to worry too much, but having either like Chosen by the Stars for regeneration or some other way to keep him healthy, you can use Death's Foil or the Storm Razor. Those are all ways to just make sure that you can keep attacking in with Ornn and getting the RAM generated and pushing through damage. So that's about it with him. Again, I haven't played that much with Ornn. He is really slow and difficult, in my opinion, one of the worst champions, but I was able to get through a 5-star adventure with him with this build, so he can make it happen. It's just not always the easiest. Hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you next time.